Hey, what's going on everyone? So if you guys watched my previous video about my mountain mural wall tutorial, I promised you guys I would show you how I was going to install these decorative spindles into my upstairs railing using these Carolina rail zip clips here. These things are pretty cool. We're going to go over some of the advantages to using them and show you guys exactly how to use them. And I'm also going to show you guys a cool tool that I use to install these to make sure that they're plumb. And it's one tool that I used weekly, sometimes daily, in my previous job when I did construction that was a lifesaver when it come to laying out foundations and laying things out that were square and everything like that. So I hope you guys find this enjoyable. If you do, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and that bell so you get notified of future videos. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right guys, so basically I'm putting in the decorative spindles here, and I'm using these rail zip clips that are from Carolina Stair Supply. And these things are pretty cool because you can mount the upper and lower bracket that accepts the metal railing there, and then these caps go over to cover the ends. You can see here, they basically just screw down to your bottom of where your railing is going to go. And then you have one on the top as well. And then once you get them situated where you want them to be, you basically slide the spindles in there. You want to make sure that your cover is on. Then you take these clips and lock these clips on. And then this goes down over top of there, and then you tighten up that Allen screw there, and it puts it in there nice and tight. Now there is an alternative way to install these without using these rail zip clips. Basically what you do is you drill a hole up in the bottom of your railing here, and then you want to go a little bit deeper, because what you need to do is you need to drill it to put your post up in, and then be able to put it in another hole that you drill down in the bottom. So basically you drill your hole, you'd slide this up in, and then you'd slide it down into the hole in the bottom of your plate, and then you would epoxy each one of them in, and then your cover would cover that epoxy in that hole that you drilled. Now one benefit to using these rail zip clips is that if you ever needed to take these out in the future, say you wanted to paint them, or if you needed to get something big up here furniture wise and you needed to come up through the railing, you could easily take those out, get your big item up here, and then put those back in. Or if you just got tired of this design or what these looked like, you could easily change them out in the future very easily. I don't think I'll have a problem because I got a big platform up here to get things around this corner. That is just a few benefits to using these rail zip clips. So now they do also make an angled one that for coming up your steps, and I'm gonna have to use these down below, which is gonna be, I'm sure, a lot harder to install. But basically it gives you the bottom piece here, which actually angles, and then it gives you the angled cover once you mount this coming up your steps, and then this would go on here to cover that like that. I will maybe show an example of these in the future when I do the bottom railing, but I don't know when that's going to be. Now I will put affiliate links below to all these rail zip clips and also the cool tool that I'm going to show you about that I've been using to install these. Now it will be affiliate links, so if you guys use them, I will make a small commission at no extra cost to you, but that's what helps this channel out in making this content for you. So let's get into the installation. All right, so when I'm putting these down, basically you're going to want to check your building codes in your area and make sure that you don't put the spacing between these too far apart. I believe in my area it's no more than 4 inches between the spindles. So basically what I did was tried to go about 4 inches to the center of each one. But like I said, you want to check your local codes and make sure that everything is up to code as far as the height of your railing and the width of your spindles. So what mine ended up being, actually once I worked it out from one side to the other, was 3 15/16 between each spindle. So what I did was took some white painter's tape and ran a row of that down right down the center where the spindles were going to go, and then I marked each one out onto there so that I could see my marks the easiest. Each one of these lines with the cross is the center of each spindle. Once I laid out my marks, I just took a square and squared it off the edge of this and got the mark this way, and then I set this square up. When I put it on the edge here, I put a little dot right in the center of this, so I line that up with that line. I line those up there like that, and then I'll screw it down. And I like to pre-drill these right in the center so that they are exactly where I need them to be. And then once I screw it down, I remove it and then basically roll the tape back and then remount it. That way it gets it exactly where you need it to be. Now before I mount this onto here, basically what I do, being that I got my point here where the center of this is, I take this Johnson laser square level. It's a 5-point basically a square and a level all in one self-leveling. So basically what I do is I turn this thing on and I'll put that red dot that shoots down right in the center of that cross that I have marked for the bottom spindle. And that's going to level itself and shoot a beam perfectly plumb with this top beam here. And that's going to, like I said, be a perfectly plumb beam both vertically this way and this way. So that's exactly where that center of the top has to be. So now what I did was I took this piece of tape here and basically made like a jig out of this piece of tape. And I'll put this piece of tape right on the edge of the railing and line it up right with that red dot. Now that's exactly the center of where that has to be. And then I took one of these, just like down below, and I have the center marks marked here on these. I'll put that there and line them center marks up both there and here. Hold that, I'll drill that, and then put the screws up in there. Now what I do, once I get one screw in, I make sure I put the cap over it and make sure everything's going to look right as far as exactly lined up and straight. And then I'll go ahead and drill the second hole and put the second screw in. But before I put the second screw in, after I drill it, I take the first one back out, remove the tape, your holes will be there, and then put your bracket on that you don't have the marks on back into its place so that you can reuse the one that has the marks on it. That could have been bad. And there it is. Okay, now on the bottom, I'm basically going to do the same thing. Line that center mark up with this center line here. And how I did that was put a mark right on the center of this square. Then I line those two marks up. And I have this set in as far as I need it to be for it to be centered right on that dot. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll pre-drill it and then screw this. Make sure it's still straight, and then put the second one in. And just like before, take the first screw back out, roll the tape back, and then mount the bracket that you don't have your marks on. I want to just talk a little bit about this tool because I want to tell you about how invaluable it is on certain scenarios. So this thing, basically, it's a Johnson laser line. It's a 5-point laser level which shoots a beam up, down, and both it'll shoot that way, this way, and that way. So basically it'll shoot a T and also up and down. And what's awesome about this is that if you were to lay out something that you needed to be perfectly square, both this way and that way, you could see here that it'll shoot your a point down, straight down, and then it'll shoot a point perfectly that way, which is that red dot. And then it would shoot a point that way, which is this red dot on the wall there. And that is perfectly square. If you'd go from that dot to the dot on the floor, back to that dot, it is 100% perfectly square. It's self-leveling. So once you would mark those 3 spots, that would be perfectly square. And we used to use this tool almost weekly when we were laying out foundations for laying block. We would use this to lay out foundations, especially when you had a foundation with a bunch of different steps in it. We would get that foundation perfectly square with this, even buildings that were 60 by 120. I mean, this thing was a lifesaver when it come to laying out perfect square foundations and things like that. If you were to hold this base, you can rotate it on there, and you could see that these dots for square up here would move, but your starting point would not move. It would stay right there, so you can adjust as you're laying out like that. Now, one thing is, if you were to be laying out something really big, 30 foot, 40 foot long, even 80 foot long, you just barely move this a hair, and the other end will move 4 to 5 inches. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to get lined up like that, but I'm telling you guys, once you get it set and marked where you need it, it's definitely going to be right on the money. We've had contractors come in and do the framing on big buildings, steel buildings, and things like that, and said that they have never come across a foundation that was as square as some of the ones that we've built. So this tool was definitely one of the main tools in our bag when it comes to laying out foundations and everything like that. So like I said, I'll put a link to it below in the description if you're interested in it. Now they do make some other laser lines that actually put the line instead of the dot, but you can't shoot that line as far as you could with this, and it doesn't give you the vertical and horizontal point like this one does. So like I said, I'll put the link in the description below and you guys can check it out if you're interested. All right, so basically once you get your brackets mounted, you want to measure between your brackets and you want to cut your spindles to fit in there. Mine are going to be about 40 3/8 between the spindles. The first thing I'm going to do is cut off the round part here, right about where it starts to turn square so that it fits up in that bracket nice. And then I'll measure from here, my 40 3/8 after I cut that end off down to here, get my mark, and then cut this end. All right, so like I said, I'm going to cut the round end off first. And then from that cut end, I'm going to measure and mark my 40 3/8. That's cold out here. My hands are cold. And then I usually like to do about 5 or 6 of these at one time. I'll come down, cut 5 or 6, go up, put those in, and make sure my measurements are staying the same. So basically, once you get these all cut, they go in fairly easily, fairly quickly also. Everything up until this point is what takes the time, and then from here on is where you see the progress and where it goes really quick. I'd really appreciate it also if you would leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this railing, or just leave a comment in general. It really helps my channel out. All right guys, I'm finally on the last one here. So please hit that like button if you like this video, and don't forget to comment below and let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys around on the next one.